remember the smell, first cold metal, dust, oil stains, and the quiet, kind of quiet that makes you feel like you don't exist. That garage was my home, and not for a night. Not for a punishment. For 22 years while inside the house, my mother laughed. My sister had birthday parties, and the lights stayed warm out here. I had a flickering bulb, a broken mattress, and winters that felt like they were trying to erase mesh used to say you belong out there. And when I was 6, I believed her, because when your own mother looks at you like you're a mystic, stop questioning. Edie wasn't always in the garage. I remember fragments, tiny flashes of something different, or soft blankets, someone lifting me up, or man's voice spit every time I asked about it. Snap, stop making things up. So I Dee stopped asking, stopped hoping, stopped believing I deserved anything more than concrete. Force me. Sister Amash had everything. Her room had pink walls, fairy lights, and shelves full of toys. He had a rusted shelf with one cracked mug and a blanket that smelled like damp cardboard. But the worst part wasn't the cold, it wasn't the hunger, it was the way my mom looked at me, like I didn't belong to her, like I was something she was forced to keep. Every night he would lie there staring at the ceiling and wonder, what did I do wrong? I was a kid, he didn't understand. She hugged at me, had never touched me. She smelled at her, but never looked me in the eyes. At school I learned to stay invisible. Kids notice things, smell the worn clothes, the silence, but no one ever asked the real question, why is this happening? And I never told, because deep down he thought, maybe this is normal, maybe this is what I deserve. Until the day everything Changetti was 20 to still sleeping in that same garage, same cold floor, same broken light. Nothing had changed except me. Had stopped feeling anything, no anger, no sadness, just emptiness. That morning I woke up to something strange, a voice at my mom's neck, and massa, man, deep calm. For me sat up, me heart started racing, because no one ever came here, no one even acknowledged this place. Ethan, I heard something that froze me completely. He deserves to know the truth. My breath stopped. Truth? What truth? I slowly stood up, walked toward the door, and for the first time in 22 years he hesitated. Becca, something inside me whispered, this will change everything. I opened the door and saw him, a man in his late 40s, standing in the driveway holding a file, looking straight at me like he had been searching for me his entire life. Then he said its sentence that shattered everything I thought I knew. I'm your father. My legs almost gave out, laughing at it. Because it was funny, but because it was impossible. My father is dead. That's what my mom told me. That's what I believed for 22 years. Shook his head slowly. No, he isn't. Then he held up the file. And I can prove it. Behind him, my mother stood frozen, her face pale white like her worst nightmare had just walked into reality. And that's when I realized that this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was a secret. A secret so big she locked me in a garage for 22 years. And whatever was inside that file was powerful and auto-destroy. Harry didn't know it yet, but in the next 10 minutes Tessie would find out why my mother hated me. I was hidden, and why the truth was worth more than everything she tried to protect. Asterisk. For a few seconds no one moved, no one spoke. It felt like time itself had stopped. He looked at him again, really looked. This time same sharp jawline, same I saw nothing about him felt familiar, and I hated that feeling because it meant everything I believed might be a lie. My father is dead, I repeated, me voice shaking this time and not with anger. The first man stepped closer, careful, like he didn't want to scare me. I know that's what you were told. His voice was calm to calm, like he had rehearsed this moment for years. Then he opened the file, paper after paper, documents, photos, records. My name is Daniel Hayes, he said, and I've been looking for you for 22 years. My heart slammed against my chest. 22 years, same number, same amount of time I had been hidden. That's not true. My mom suddenly snapped, her voice sharp, desperate. You need to leave now. I turned toward her. For the first time I saw fear, not anger, not control. Farron, that's when something inside me shifted. 'Cause my mother never feared anything except this. Let him speak, I said quietly. My voice didn't sound like mine, it sounded stronger. Daniel looked at me and handed me a document. Start with this. My hands trembled as I took it. He didn't even know what I was expecting. But it definitely wasn't this, sir. birth certificate, me name, me date of birth, everything the same except one thing. Father's name wasn't the name I had grown up hearing. It wasn't unknown, it wasn't blank. It say Daniel. Hey, me vision blurred. No, this is fake, I whispered it. Had to bite, had to be fake. Because if it wasn't, then my entire life was built on a lie. There's more. His agent life pulled out another paper test results, official stamped verified. He didn't understand all the numbers, but one line stood out clear as day: probability of paternity. 99.99%. My fingers went numb, paper slipped slightly bit. I couldn't look away. This isn't real, I whispered again, but this time I didn't sound convinced. Said Ben May heard something, a sharp breath. Me mom, you don't understand, she said, her voice breaking now. This isn't how it looks. I turned slowly. For 22 years he had waited for even a single explanation or reason, anything. Ganosh finally wanted to talk. Then explain, I said, cold direct, no emotion left. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. Because the truth doesn't come easy when it's been buried for decades. Daniel stepped forward again. He didn't abandon you, he said, looking straight at me. He didn't even know you existed. That hit harder than anything else, because all my life I believed one thing, that I was unwanted, that I was left behind. But what if I wasn't abandoned? What if I was taken? I felt something rise in my chest, something dangerous, something I had buried for years. Singer, what do you mean? You didn't know? My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Daniel took a deep breath like he had been waiting his entire life to say what came next. Your mother disappeared, he said. 22 years ago. I froze. She left without a word, no calls, no messages, nothing. My mind started racing, trying to process, trying to connect the pieces. That's a lie, my mom shouted, but her voice didn't have power anymore. In panic, I searched for you, Daniel continued. I hired investigators, I filed report, I never stopped looking. Each word felt like it was breaking something inside me, because this wasn't just a story, this was proof for time. 22 years of it. People don't do that for something they don't care about, so why now? I asked, barely able to speak. Daniel hesitate just for a second, then he said something that changed everything again. Because I finally found the truth about why she ran. Silent sea of Yunka Bortor looked between them. Mother frozen and the man who claimed to be my father, holding answers that could destroy everything. Say it. I dim and dead looked at Methan Aher, and then said the one thing that made my blood run cold. She didn't run away. He paused just long enough to make it hurt. She was hiding you. My heart stopped. From who? I whispered. Dan, that's when me mother finally broke. Tears filled her eyes, her voice shaking as she said, from them. Asterisk them. Who are they? Why would someone go this far to hide a child for 22 years? And if my father was telling the truth, then the real danger was just beginning. Asterisk the word echoed in my head. Them, a name and not a persona, group of threats, something big and not to make a mother hide her own child for 22 years. Who are they? I asked again, this time louder, sharper. Me mom's hands were shaking, her eyes darting between me and Daniel like she was calculating something. You don't understand, she whispered. No, I cut her off. I don't, and I'm done not understanding. For the first time in my life I wasn't scared of Harry, was angry. Daniel stepped forward, his expression serious now. No more lies, he said quietly. Me mom closed her eyes, tears slipping down her face, and then said it was his family. I frowned. His family? Daniel's jaw tightened like he already knew what was coming. They're not normal people, she continued. They're powerful, rich, and dangerous. A cold chill ran through my body. Dangerous? How? She laughed weakly. Not because it was funny, but because the truth sounded insane. They control everything. Businesses, politics, people. I shook my head. No, this doesn't make sense. But deep down something did, because nothing about my life had ever been normal. They didn't want you, she said, looking straight at me now. They never did. Those words hit hard, but not the way she expected. Backhouse, I'd heard words from her. Why? I asked. Excellence, and Daniel spoke low, controlled, but filled with something darker. Because of what you are. I felt my stomach drop. What does that even mean? He hesitated just for a second, then he said, you weren't supposed to exist. Everything went quiet again. What? My family had plans, he continued, arrangements, expectations, and you. He looked at me, thing like regret in his eyes. You ruined them. I stepped back, me head spinning. So they wanted me gone? No, my mom said quickly. Not gone. Her Voice drop had barely a whisper controlled. The word was worse, because immediate wasn't just unwanted, it was something to be used. They would have taken you, she continued, raised you their way, turned you into one of them, and you think locking me in a garage was better. I snapped at her, face broke. I was trying to protect you. She cried, by treating me like I was nothing. My voice cracked, years of pain finally breaking through. You don't get to call that protection. She looked away because she knew he was right. Daniel stepped closer to me. You deserve the TR. Youth, he said. Then why didn't you find me sooner? I shot back. I tried, he said, until they made sure I couldn't. I froze. What does that mean? His expression darkened. They threatened everything, my career, my life, and when that didn't work, he paused. They made me disappear. My heart skipped for 12 years. I was watched, every move, every call. I couldn't search for you without risking your life. The weight of that hit me all at once. See, this wasn't just a broken family. This was something bigger, something dangerous. But something changed. Daniel said, what? He looked at Mesty. I certain they think you're still weak. I frowned. What? They think you're still that invisible kid in the garage. Something inside me shifted. Backhouse, for the first time, that didn't feel true. They don't know you survived, he continued. They don't know what you became. I let out a slow breath. For 22 years he was nothing, but now I had something, truth, and maybe for the first time in my life, a choice bit. Before I could say anything, me mom spoke again. You need to leave, she said. Suddenly urgent of us turned to her. They'll come, she whispered. Her chill ran through me. Her eyes filled with fear. They always do when the truth comes out. And right on cue, heard ITA car pulling up. Slow deliberation, just one altiplay, turned toward the driveway. Me heart pounding. Black car stinted windows, engine still running, watching, waiting. They're here, my mom whispered. And hook part 3 cliffhanger. After 22 years they finally found Mevia. They didn't know one thing, it wasn't the same person they thought I was, and this time I wasn't going back to the garage. Asterisk, the engines didn't turn off. That was the first thing I noticed. Those black cars sitting there, silent but alive, like predators waiting. No one stepped out. Not yet. They know we're here, Daniel said quietly. My heart was pounding now, but strangely I wasn't scared, not the way I used to be, because fear was something I had lived with for 22 years. This felt different. This felt like the moment everything changes. Go inside, my mom whispered, grabbing my arm. I pulled away. No, her eyes widened. You don't understand. No, I cut her off again. But I'm about to. For the first time I wasn't running. I stepped forward out of the garage into the driveway. The sunlight hit my face, and for a second it felt unreal, like I was stepping into a life I was never allowed to live. Behind me Daniel followed. Stay close, he said, but I didn't. I kept walking until I was right there facing them. Then the first car door opened, slow, controlled. A man stepped out, late 50s, perfect suit, calm expression, the kind of man who doesn't raise his voice because he never has to. Behind him more doors opened, more men, same look, same energy, power. Daniel, the man said, almost amused. Then his eyes shifted to me and everything changed. The calm expression, it cracked just slightly. So, he said, stepping closer. This is him. I felt it, that look, not curiosity, not kindness, evaluation. Like I was something being measured, judged, owned. Something inside me snapped. I have a name, I said. The silence that followed was sharp, dangerous. Then he smiled. Of course you do, he said softly. Names don't matter here. I stepped closer, matching his distance. They do to me. Behind him one of the men shifted, tense, ready. Daniel moved slightly forward, but I raised my hand, stopping him. No, this was mine. The man studied me longer this time. Then he nodded, almost impressed. You've changed, he said. I didn't respond because I knew what he meant. They expected someone weak, broken, silent. But that person died in that garage. What do you want? I asked straight. No fear. His smile returned. You, he said, simple, direct, like it was obvious. You don't get to decide that, I replied. A pause, then a soft chuckle from behind him. Actually, he said, taking another step closer, we already did. And that's when Daniel spoke. No one word, but powerful. The man's eyes shifted to him, cold. Now you had your chance, he said, and you lost it. 22 years ago. Something in Daniel's expression changed. Regret turned into resolve. Not this time, he said. The tension snapped. One of the men reached inside his jacket. My mom gasped. Behind us, everything Slow, this was at the moment where fear should take over. But it didn't, because for the first time in my life, I had something stronger, nothing to lose. Stop, I said loud, clear. And surprisingly, they did. All eyes turned to me, even the man in front. I took a step forward. You spent 22 years thinking I was nothing. Another step, that I'd stay hidden. Another, that I'd never fight back. Now, I was right in front of him, close enough to see every detail. In his face. You were wrong. Silence, heavy. Then slowly, very slowly, I reached into my pocket. Daniel tensed. The men behind him stiffened. But I didn't stop. I pulled it out, a phone, and held it up. I already sent everything. The man's smile faded. What are you talking about? I looked him dead in the eyes. The documents, the DNA, the truth. A pause. Then I said the one thing that changed the entire game. To people who don't work for you, that did it for the first time. Real emotion appeared on his face. Anger. You think that protects you? He asked quietly. I didn't hesitate. No. I stepped even closer. It exposes you. Behind him, the men shifted again. But this time not with confidence, with uncertainty, because power only works in silence. And I just broke it. For 22 years, I was invisible, but now the truth was out, and powerful people hate one thing more than anything: being exposed. But what I didn't realize was this wasn't their final move. It was just the beginning. For the first time, they hesitated, not because they were weak, but because they were exposed. The man in front of Meth, one who walked in like he owned everything, was thinking, calculating. Power only works when no one is watching. You made a mistake, he said quietly, but his voice didn't carry the same control anymore. I shook my head slowly. No. I stepped back, finally creating space. For the first time in my life, I did something right behind me. I heard its sirens distant at first, but getting closer fast to me. Mom gasped. Daniel turned his head slightly, but I kept my eyes locked in him. You didn't just send documents, he said, narrowing his eyes. He smiled just slightly. No, I sent everything. Emails, records, signed accounts, sold reports, and a mess contained 22 years of silence turned into evidence. Seen. I didn't send it to one place, I sent it everywhere. People like him didn't fear one enemy, fear exposure. The sound of sirens grew louder. Now unavoidable. The men behind him shifted again, but this time they didn't look ready. They looked unsure, because the script had changed. You think this ends here? He asked. Don't last attempt to regain control. He stepped closer again. No, it starts here. The hippie cows. He understood this wasn't survival anymore. This was warbless. Cars pulled into the driveway, lights flashing, breaking the illusion off. Untouchable power officers stepped out, voices from control. Ledivini moved quickly. After that, questions. Conante's men in black suits, no standing still, not because they wanted to, because they had to. The man looked at me one last time, and out with power, but with something else, respect mixed with anger. You're his son, he said quietly. Didn't respond, because I already knew, but I also knew something else. I wasn't just his son, he was the one they failed to control. They took him away on by one. Karst meant to lose the ongen just like that. Silence returned, but this time might felt different. Later, the first time mine 22 years, he wasn't Trapody. Wasn't he Denny? Wasn't Fergotini? Turned slowly. Me mom stood there, broken, tears running down her face. I was trying to protect you, she whispered again. He looked at Harry. Looked at for the first time, without fear, without confusion, just clarity. You protected me from them, I said quietly. Your pause, but not from you. That broke her, because it was the truth, and truth hurts more when it's let. Neil stepped beside me. You don't have to go back there, he said. He looked at the garage, that place that defined my entire life. Cold, dark, silent. I looked forward at everything she never had. I won't simplify now, because that chapter was over. Weeks past, its story spread. News investments exposed that everything he built started falling apart slowly, then all at once. And me, I started something new, not revenge, not anger, something better. A life own I chose, the own I built, without fear, without chains and cementimolate. At 90, still think about that garage, but not with pain, with purpose. That because it didn't break my built. Methy tried to hide me for 22 years, but the truth doesn't stay buried. It waits until the right moment to destroy everything.